Throughout the NBA's history, players have put up superb single-match performances that carved their names in the history books. And while good defense is a vital part of a player's skill set, I'm actually talking about scoring. Yes, some players have literally single-handedly shot their teams to victory with their superb, record-setting shooting. And in this video, we'll be taking a look at the NBA players who scored the most points in a single game. We'll have to begin with none other than Wilt Chamberlain. For the young ones who don't know, no one in NBA history has scored more points in one match than the Philadelphia Warriors legend. Chamberlain's record for most points scored in a single NBA regular season game was established almost 60 years ago, and not even the great LeBron James has come close to eclipsing it since then. The historic moment happened in a 169-147 victory over the New York Knicks on March 2nd, 1962. On this day, Wilt Chamberlain led the Philadelphia Warriors, scoring with 100 points and 25 rebounds. And it was a performance that left everyone's jaws on the ground. Chamberlain's 100th point came via a field goal which he made in the waning seconds of the game. This was after shooting 36 for 63 from the field and 28 for 32 from the free throw line. The Hall of Fame center also had the previous milestone of 78 points, which he had established earlier in the 1961-1962 season.
Is like comparing me with Clark Gable. In this case, I'm Clark Gable and he's me. No, he played.
I thought you were going to be self-effacing for a second,
No.
But he surpassed it just a few months later by scoring triple digits. Chamberlain's name appears frequently on the list of NBA history's top single-game scorers. In fact, 32 of the 76 times in which an NBA player has scored at least 60 points in a game are attributed to Chamberlain alone. Surprisingly, for all his single-game shooting heroics, Chamberlain is down in 8th place on NBA's all-time scoring charts. Nonetheless, there have been 5 other 70-plus point games in league history, and Chamberlain has scored 70 points 6 times. The good news for Chamberlain's legacy is that one has even come close to his 100-point record. In fact, just one player has managed to eclipse his 78-point second-best single-game scoring record, and that player is none other than the late great number 8 Kobe Bryant. In January 2006,
naming her Kobe, the middle name, and I'm like,
Yeah, then you have to explain it. Yeah, right.
You know, okay. Then time goes on, and she's like, I'm thinking.
the legendary Kobe Bryant led the Los Angeles Lakers to a comeback victory over the Toronto Raptors with an astonishing 81 points. After the break, Bryant scored 55 of his 81 points, helping Los Angeles overcome an 18-point third-quarter deficit to win by the same number. With 43 seconds left, he made 2 free throws to score his 80th and 81st points, finishing with 28 of 46 from the field, 7 of 13 from 3, and 18 of 20 from the line. 4 other players have also finished a game with at least 70 points, and one of them is the legendary Elgin Baylor.
Well, I would say Jerry would be one.
Jerry West?
Yeah, Jerry
Okay.
would be, naturally. Trying to think,
Baylor, who played for the Lakers in November 1960, was actually the first NBA player to ever score 70 points in a single game. He finished the night with 71 points and 25 rebounds. Then the following season, Chamberlain beat Baylor's mark by scoring 78 points in a defeat to the Lakers. And while Chamberlain stole the show that night with his scoring, Baylor's 63 points in that very game was still a major talking point. After Baylor's 70-point performance, the next non-Chamberlain 70-point performance occurred in April 1978. This was when David Thompson scored 73 points for the Denver Nuggets. Fondly called the Admiral, a former big man from the San Antonio Spurs followed his performance in April 1994 with a tally of 71 points. Devin Booker, a guard for the Phoenix Suns and a 2-time All-Star, scored 51 points in the second half.
I've been on the other side of it, so I know it's a tough coverage. It's one of those situations where no matter what you do,
and a total of 70 points in a defeat to the Boston Celtics in March 2017 to record his second ever 70-point performance. Interestingly, it was in the final 45 seconds of the game that he converted 6 free throws to reach the milestone. Donovan Mitchell, a guard with the Cleveland Cavaliers, had one of the most recent games with 70 or more points per single player.
I've had our personal battles for years. Quite frankly, I've been busting his ass for years. Playoffs, regular season. In the one game he does all right, job.
Mitchell's 71 points on January 2nd helped the Cavaliers overcome the Chicago Bulls 145 to 134 in overtime, and this gives him the best point total in a game since Bryant's 81. Now, how can we talk about NBA players who have scored the most points per game without mentioning Michael Jordan?
You know, because when I walk away from the game of basketball, you know, that was enough to keep my competitive juices working.
Absolutely.
Now when I don't have that game, this game, and it even...
MJ set the single-game playoff scoring record in Game 2 of the 1986 Eastern Conference first round against Boston by scoring 63 points. Despite Jordan's record-breaking performance, the Chicago Bulls were unable to overcome the opposition and lost 135 to 131 in overtime. Jordan narrowly outperformed Baylor, who held the previous record of 61 points in Game 5 of the 1962 NBA Finals between the LA Lakers and Celtics. He had a record still intact, though, and the most points ever scored in a finals game is still 61, set by none other than Baylor. And in case you didn't know, the only NBA players with at least 60 points in the postseason are Baylor and Jordan. However, Utah Jazz guard Donovan Mitchell has come the closest to joining that exclusive group. He scored 57 points on the opening night of the 2020 bubble playoffs, which resulted in a loss to Denver in overtime. Damian Lillard, too, just recently joined the 70-point elite despite having played for less than 40 minutes. Lillard scored 71 points, tied for the highest in the NBA this season, and made 13 three-pointers as the Portland Trail Blazers defeated the Houston Rockets 131 to 114 to end a 2-game losing streak. And since Mitchell also scored 71 points in the victory over Chicago on January 2nd, it means he now shares the record for the most points in a game this season with Damian Lillard. It was a great night for Lillard, who, while on a three-pointer with 4:42 remaining, ended his own franchise record of 61 points. He also set a new career high with 11 three-pointers in a game. The fans at the Moda Center rose to their feet in the closing moments to film the event while yelling MVP, MVP. It was so clear Lillard was going to have an awesome night, because by halftime, he had already made 8 three-pointers and scored 41 points. Lillard scored the most points in a half of his career and any player in the NBA so far this year. At the start of the fourth quarter, he already had 50 points. After Lillard's 11th three-pointer of the game, the score was 113 to 103, tying his career high with 6:43 remaining on the clock. Speaking of scoring, Lillard doesn't just stack up regular game points. The weekend before his history-making performance, he had taken part in the NBA All-Star Game three-point contest and he won it. Anyway, Lillard was the 10th player since the 1996-1997 season to have 40 or more points in a half as the Blazers lead 73 to 58 at the break. Lillard has played in league matches with 50 or more points, and that's the 6th most in NBA history. Lillard's performance was so good that night that he was even mandated to do a drug test. This almost left a sour taste on his record though, but since he tested negative, I'm sure he's a happy man now. He received much praise not just from the fans, but from NBA journalists and players from other teams. Some overly enthusiastic fans have even suggested that such tests were only carried out on black players after they had put up amazing scoring performances. However, there's no evidence to corroborate that Lillard's drug test was racially motivated.